Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Nicole did not notice whatever thoughts might have gone through her head as she was surrounded by a crowd. Many could see that she was not actually very difficult to get along with, so they started talking to her. "Nicole, what's your relationship with our boss? Both of you are riddles. Are you related by blood? Nicole, how did you get to know Spectre? He's already so skilled. How are you even more skilled than him?" Nicole glanced at Zeke suspiciously, as if she was questioning him with her gaze. "Since when did you become that good?" Zeke rolled his eyes helplessly. "Come on, I've been following after you for so long now, and I'm now Hustruberg's #2 hacker." Even if Nicole did not think he was skilled, he was already the top man in Hustruberg. Nicole did not pay much attention to those ranking bells and whistles. After some thought, she felt that what Zeke said made sense, so she did not ask any more questions. Everyone behind them was very curious about their exchange. What did Spectre just say? He has been following this girl for a long time. What's going on? Many of them looked at one another before falling into an awkward silence for 2 seconds. In the end, a weak voice rang out, breaking the silence. "Miss Nicole, are you really not Lucifer?" Although Lucifer's personality was very similar to Nicole's style, many of them still had doubts. One of the most difficult things for them to reconcile was Lucifer had stated in Hunter's information database that he was a male. Nicole gave the person asking the question a slothful look before breaking into a smile. She let out a very amorphous aura and said, "Take a guess." They were even more surprised, but Nicole had already turned around and left. After entering the elevator, Preston looked at his employees. They did not show any joy when they were told they were getting paid leave, yet when Nicole asked them to take a guess, everyone was elated and surprised, as if figured out the answer. As the elevator went down, Preston looked at his cousin somewhat helplessly. "Come on, tell me what's going on," asked Preston. He thought, how did she inexplicably become the top hacker in Hustruberg all of a sudden? The name Lucifer was equivalent to a god in the world of hackers. Nicole is actually Lucifer? No wonder that technique she displayed at home earlier was so skilled. I'm such a fool for failing to see that Nicole is Lucifer. However, who would have thought that Lucifer was just a high school girl? Zeke turned around and looked at Preston as he whispered to Nicole. "Is he your brother too?" asked Zeke. He thought, this fella doesn't look that smart though. Nicole nodded. "He's my cousin." Oh, Zeke immediately realized. No wonder there was such a gap between him and Nicole. Sensing the two's disdainful gaze, Preston suddenly felt depressed, yet he could not say anything. The three got out of the elevator, and Nicole immediately tossed Zeke into the back seat of the waiting Mercedes-Benz before getting in herself. After all this trouble, it was almost 10 o'clock already. She then said coldly, "A good boy should be sleeping early." Zeke puffed up his baby face as he glared at her. "We're the same age, okay? Why is she always calling me a kid? I'm already a man, damn it." Zeke cursed inwardly. When Nicole heard that, she gave him a slothful raise of an eyebrow. Her expression was cold yet dignified. "I'm 3 months older than you." "TCH, only 3 months, what are you so gleeful for?" Zeke was massaging his rather sore legs from the 25 laps he ran this morning as he mumbled to himself angrily. Preston was not mad that he did not get a response from Nicole as he casually sat in the driver's seat and prepared to start the car. Edwin, who had followed them, knocked on Nicole's window. As the window winded down, Nicole's beautiful face was revealed. She looked at Edwin impassively as she asked, "Anything?" Edwin only smiled as he made a victory gesture at her, his handsome face looking somewhat silly. "Good luck with the exam." Nicole paused for a moment as a smile appeared in her eyes. "I will." Preston looked at the two with some surprise before asking, "Nicole, what examination are you participating in?" When Edwin heard Preston's question, he looked at the latter as if he was looking at a fool before saying, "Preston, your cousin is about to join the Math Olympiad, and you don't know about it?" Immediately after, he looked at Preston's stupefied look as he said impassively, "The questions of the Math Olympiad this time around are designed by Declan Hancock. Even the provincial authorities are taking it very seriously. The governor himself will be personally presenting the prize to the champion." What? That big of a deal? Preston looked at Nicole in what? Preston, who was just about to step on the accelerator, was once again shocked. As he looked at her affirmative gaze, he almost wanted to puke blood. This punk lives in the military district compound? The military district in San Joto was not a place any person could enter. Every single person that could live there was all people of influential backgrounds. Thinking back that how he treated Zeke earlier was decent enough, Preston wiped the sweat off his forehead and planned to start driving. At that very instant, he had broken into a cold sweat. What sort of people has Nicole been hanging out with? Zeke's rather dissatisfied voice then came from behind, sounding somewhat begrudging as well. We are not going to the military district. I'll head back to Northern Institute's dormitory. Seemingly being reminded of something, Zeke turned around and looked at Nicole as he gritted his teeth. Otherwise, I need to wake up at 4 in the morning. It's too early. I can't wake up. In order to receive Nicole's tough training, Zeke, who had never lived in a dormitory before, finally had the honor to experience the famous old dorm of Northern Institute. The school was famous for training its students to be hardworking, Spartan, and industrious, but in fact, it was just short on funds. Nicole gave him a casual look and could see that he was frowning and throwing a tantrum. A smile appeared across her eyes as she looked at Preston and flatly said, "All right. I need to go back to the Royal Creek Institute's dormitory. It's along the way." Preston had a somewhat conflicted look in his eyes as he nodded and said nothing as he prepared to send the two back. He had been through a lot today. He had to say that he was a little worn out and needed to laugh it out. Seeing Preston's somewhat dour looks, Nicole said flatly, "Preston, please keep the matter of me being Lucifer a secret." She had a lot of enemies, and if they were to find out who she was, they would definitely look for her. All right. Preston nodded. He would continue to keep this a secret for her. Nicole smiled as a glint appeared in her eyes. White had appeared before her too many times now. It was high time that she investigated who this person was. Zeke looked at Nicole strangely as he felt that she was hatching some plans. He was a little worried but could only walk with her step by step. Soon, Preston stopped the car at the gate of Royal Creek Institute. Nicole and Zeke got down together. As Nicole closed the door, she said to Preston, "Your company's crisis has been solved. Don't run around. You should go back home." Preston nodded and was somewhat speechless that she would say something like this. But he soon thought of something as a mischievous smile appeared on his face. "When you have time later, please teach me that technique you pulled off today." Nicole was slightly taken aback. This Preston is actually trying to take advantage. Zeke looked at Preston with great interest. Nicole would not even agree to teach him no matter how he begged, so Preston's request was merely wishful thinking. Sure enough, Nicole responded coldly. "I've no time. I have exams." This answer was enough to make him puke blood. A top hacker like her is frustrated by exams? Yet, Preston could not find anything to retort. After all, she was indeed a student, and her studies came first. Fine. Preston then let out a sigh as he drove off. Nicole did not notice Preston's expression. Instead, she turned to look at Zeke as she suddenly remembered what he said in the car. "Seems like you are very dissatisfied with the training schedule I've set for you." Zeke did not expect her to remember. He immediately explained, "It isn't that, Nicole. Just think about it. I need to be at the track by 4:30. Doesn't that mean I need to wake at 4 since I can only head there after washing up? I'll be too tired for this." Zeke was still complaining. When he realized that Nicole had left, only did he want to chase after her. Nicole's voice soon came over along with the breeze. "If you have any further objections, come at 3:30 tomorrow. Now go back and sleep." Zeke pouted as he was somewhat unhappy. He dared not challenge Nicole's authority, so he could only turn around and sheepishly walk to his own school. Sigh, 4 o'clock is not too bad, I guess. If I sleep now, I at least can get 5 hours of sleep. After Preston got back to the Riddle family manor, he looked at the clock in the hall and found that it was already 11 p.m. He then walked toward his room, yet he saw Dylan and Karen's room light was still on, and there seemed to be some discussion going on inside. Preston did not mind it as he walked past the room. However, when he reached the door on his way, it opened, and Karen's dissatisfied voice came from inside. "Why are you back this late?" Preston stopped. He said impassively, "I dropped Nicole off at school before coming back." He never told his parents that he and Edwin had set up a company. Even when such a serious problem had occurred in the company, Preston had never thought of telling them. Karen looked at her favorite son as a rare sullen look appeared on her face. "Nicole? Since when did you got so close to her?" No wonder Preston did not speak up when we clashed with Daniel's family back then. "It was because of Nicole?" Preston frowned. He had always felt that his parents were a little too much for targeting a young lady for no reason. And now, when Karen reacted so agitatedly just because he had sent her back as her cousin, he felt that she was really being unreasonable. "Mom, Nicole is my cousin. It's inevitable for us to meet when we are at Grandpa's house. Can you stop targeting her?" Today was the first time he got to know Nicole. From what he saw, she was not a bad person. He felt that his parents had seriously misunderstood her. Seeing that Preston was speaking up for Nicole, Karen's expression grew even more bitter. "Preston, I'm warning you, don't get too close to Nicole." "You heard me? Just look at how she treats us. She must have approached you with some motives. You're such a naive person, don't be fooled by her." When Preston saw that Karen was still running her mouth on Nicole, he could not be bothered to entertain her anymore. He gave his mother a glance with a look of irritability in his eyes. "Did you look for me just to say all these? Fine, I'm going to bed now. Since I cannot get through to her, why should I bother?" As he thought about that, he turned to leave. Karen panicked a little as she saw Preston's reaction and quickly reached out to pull him. For some reason, she had always doted on Preston since he was a boy, giving him anything and everything, yet Preston was never as close to her compared to snow and rain. "Mom, I'm tired. Can you let me go to bed?" It was not just today. He had been tired for the past few days, and he could finally catch a good night's sleep tonight. He wanted to rest. When Karen felt Preston treating her so coldly, a bitter look appeared on her face. It must have been that girl saying something to him. Thinking of this, Karen anxiously looked at Preston as she said, "Tell Mom now, why weren't you back home for the past few days? Was it because Nicole told you something? Tell me everything that girl said to you." Karen guessed that Nicole must have been talking bad about her to her son behind her back. Otherwise, her son would not be so cold to her. Preston hated it the most when his mother was like that. He casually pulled his hand away when he heard that. Karen did not expect her son to take his hand away so forcefully and was stunned for a moment. Looking at her surprised look, Preston had a tinge of mockery in his eyes. "Nicole did not say much to me at all. It's you instead." Preston pulled his sleeves up, revealing the spot where Karen had grabbed him just now. The skin was already visibly turning blue-black, just like the bruise produced after being grabbed and pinched. "You're always like that. You assume that you're doing me a favor, but you actually only want to satisfy your own wants and needs. Otherwise, why would you use so much strength just to grab onto me?" Karen looked at the bruise on Preston's hand, and a look of panic soon appeared on her face. As she heard what he said, her voice became shrill from the rising anger. "You're talking nonsense. I love you the most out of my 3 children. How can you speak of me like that?" Preston looked at her impassively as he softly said, "Is that so? Is that really so?" As Karen's firstborn, Preston was required to be the best young master of the Riddle family. He was forced to learn this and that day in and out, so much so that he did not have time to touch his favorite computer. Later on, he suffered many beatings for doing the things he liked. Preston did not look at Karen. He was now a grown-up and no longer that weak little boy. He skipped about at a pace that pissed Karen off, humming the punk rock songs she had derided as garbage many times as he walked into his room and slammed the door with a loud bang immediately after. He could hear Karen's furious tirade coming from outside the door. A cheeky smile of a kid who had managed to cause trouble soon appeared on Preston's face. He casually threw his coat onto the bed and went into the shower. Karen's outburst soon alarmed Dylan. He was thinking of something by the bedside, and when he heard his wife's out-of-control voice, he immediately walked over and hissed as if somewhat displeased. "What are you doing? This is the family manor. Know your place." They had been taking advantage of staying in the Riddle family manor because of Mr. Riddle Sr. being sick. Yet, Karen was causing such a ruckus here? Does she want to wake Mr. Riddle Sr. up and suffer another round of scolding again? Karen was taken aback by that reprimand, and her temper flared even more. She looked at the man with an irritable look on his face as a sense of being wronged appeared among the flames of anger in her heart. Even you are treating me like this. I can't stand in this home anymore. I'll pack up tomorrow and go back to the Marquez family. She had always been saying this over and over, and Dylan was already used to it, so he only shrugged when she said that. Yet, he seemed to remember something as he grabbed her shoulder and said, "Enough. Didn't you say you want to let Preston get the old man's attention and get him to favor us again? Why are you scolding him now?" He managed to draw Karen's attention away as the latter bore a deep hatred for Nicole in her eyes. "It's all because of Nicole. She must have told our son something. Otherwise, no matter how rebellious Preston was, he never dared to talk back to me." When Dylan heard Nicole's name, he also frowned a little in anger. He let go of Karen's hand as he hissed, "You're right. When I was almost forced to kneel back then, Preston did not react at all. Nicole must have done something to him." The husband and wife discussed about Nicole for a good while before Dylan finally remembered something important and looked on worriedly at Karen as he said, "If Preston is really close to Nicole, that means he will not help us and might get in our way too. What do you think we should do?" Karen also had thought of this as she squinted, and a cold glint appeared in her eyes. "Then we'll do it ourselves." Dylan looked at her with surprise. A moment later, he lowered his voice as he said, "But Nicole is so on guard against us." Karen glanced at him and sneered, "I don't believe she doesn't have any weaknesses." Early next morning, Zeke appeared on time on the track field with 2 large dark eye circles on his face. Nicole was already standing there as she calmly looked at her watch to confirm that he was not late before casually saying, "Your mission today is to run 30 laps. This is the number of kilometers you will need to normally run every single day. Once you are used to these 30 laps, I'll add on other training." Zeke could not be bothered to say anything else as he started his new day of running. Nicole looked at his face as a trace of emotion appeared in her eyes. He is still so far away from being able to start learning martial arts. By the time Zeke was done running, the sky was already bright, and as the orange-colored dawn light shone upon Nicole, Zeke's heart inexplicably jumped wildly. "What's going on? Did I run too much that I'm getting heart arrhythmia?" He slowly stopped down to stop his wildly beating heart. His legs were so sore he could barely stand and needed to rest a good while before he could find his feet again. Seeing that he was done running, Nicole did not say much as she turned around and headed to the classroom. It was already Friday and was the day of the Riddle family banquet, and she also had the math Olympiad tomorrow. She did not have much time left, with the monthly exam coming on next Monday. So troublesome. Nicole sighed. She had never seriously tried to be a student before, and now she realized that trying to be one was harder than being a top-level hacker. She then glumly walked toward the classroom building. From afar, she saw Spencer and Samuel. Assuming that they were waiting for her, Nicole walked toward them. When she got closer, she then noticed there was a thin figure standing beside them. It was the angry Nora, who had not gone home for several days now. Samuel was seemingly trying to advise her. "Nora, you've been mad for a few days now. Mom was asking me, why did you not come in when you came to Grandpa's home the other day?" Nicole frowned a little. Nora went back to the Riddle family manor? Why did she not know about this? Nora's back was facing Nicole, so she naturally did not see her as she lowered her head and pretended to be innocent as she said, "I heard that Grandpa was sick, so I wanted to go back and visit him. But now everyone only thinks of Nicole and not me anymore. I'm no longer a riddle. I'm ashamed to see Grandpa." Ah, so the day she went back was the day Snow lost her pink diamond. Nicole's eyes narrowed as she managed to connect something together. She then walked up and she said coldly, "Is it because you're ashamed to see Grandpa or because you've taken something away at the door?" What Nicole said made Nora's body stiffen. She then turned around as her eyes widened. Nicole. Why is she here? She had waited here for Samuel and Spencer on purpose and finally found the chance to get them to persuade her to go home. Unexpectedly, she ran straight into Nicole here. Isn't she supposed to be in class right now? Nora wondered. Why are you looking at me so surprised? Feeling guilty now? Nicole raised her eyebrow. She had felt that it was odd that Snow suddenly lost her pink diamond, yet only she and her brothers returned home that night. Snow and Rain would not be so stupid to be stealing their own things. Nicole could not help but think, then the only suspect here was. Nora immediately panicked. What nonsense are you spouting? Why would I feel guilty? She quickly played innocent. I know you don't want me to go back home, so I won't, but don't you try to frame me. Nicole raised her eyebrow. I haven't even said what you're feeling guilty for, so how did you tell I'm trying to frame you? Unless you knew what Snow had lost. When she said that, Samuel and Spencer looked at each other. What are you trying to say, Nicole? Did Snow lose something? How come we didn't know? The Riddle brothers wondered. Nicole looked at the two and said coldly, Snow lost her pink diamond the day we went back to visit Grandpa. Nora's face immediately turned red. What does losing her pink diamond have anything to do with me? What could I get out of it? Nicole frowned a little. It might not do any good for you, but the first person her suspicion fell upon was me when she lost her diamond. Perhaps it is to, frame me. Nora's heart skipped a beat. She did not expect Nicole to have guessed it. Yet she cannot admit to it no matter what. I did not do that. Don't you accuse me without proof. Accuse you without proof? Nicole laughed. Then why were you standing at the door and did not go in? I said it already. It's because I was ashamed. Really? Nicole's gaze became sharper. Since you don't want to admit it, then how about we search your dorm room then? This time, Nora was truly stunned. She had not gone back home for the past few days, so the pink diamond could only be stored in her dorm room. She thought that no one would suspect her, so she kept it there. After all, that pink diamond looked very valuable from the outset. Yet, Nora did not expect Nicole wanted to search her dorm room. She immediately panicked a little. So, out with it. Did you steal the pink diamond, or not? Nicole did not want to push Nora to the brink and wanted to give her a chance to admit it herself. With Nora's back to the wall, her brothers were no longer asking her to go back home as they seemingly believed what Nicole said and were looking at her suspiciously. Nora could not bear it any longer, so she could only cry. Nicole, I know you don't like me, but you cannot slander me like this. Back then, Mommy and Daddy and my brothers all dote on me, and they had not given me anything. I don't care about that pink diamond. Now Mommy, Daddy, and my brothers all dote on you. Everything is yours now. I'm already not going back home, so what more do you want? Is chasing me out of the house not enough? Are you only satisfied when I'm finally sitting in jail? Nora bawled as if Nicole was the one that was bullying her. Samuel and Spencer looked at each other and did not know what to say. Samuel was the naive one and could not help but believe this little sister he had been living with for so many years. Nicole, let's stop suspecting Nora. Snow and Rain had been lying through their teeth. It might be them who are trying to frame you. Nicole's brows furrowed. She did not expect Samuel to be such a naive simpleton. With Snow so concerned about Harvey, if he were to find out about her losing the diamond, wouldn't she be afraid that he'd be angry? No, she'd not tell such a lie. When Nora saw Nicole keeping silent, she thought that the latter had admitted defeat and continued. I know, you're afraid that I'll fight with you for their affection. But we're still family. Do you really believe Snow and Rain but not me? What Nora said made Spencer feel a little conflicted. Nicole, you should have told me earlier about what Snow and Rain were doing. I'll try to investigate this matter. Before we have any conclusions, let's believe Nora for now. Nora had not been home for a few days now, and it was pitiful for her to be alone at school. Nicole, upon seeing how gullible the two brothers were, could not help but sigh. However, as for evidence, if I want to investigate the matter, it'll be far, far easier than anyone else, thought Nicole as her lips curled. She gave a confident smile. All right, let's wait until I've collected the evidence then. I'll go back to class first. It was almost time for class, and she did not want to waste any more time with Nora. Nicole. Both Spencer and Samuel watched Nicole leave coldly and thought she was angry. Nora took the opportunity to quip. Samuel, Spencer, you've seen it yourself. With Nicole hating me so much, it's better if I don't go home. Samuel sighed. No, you haven't come home for so many days now. Mom is worried. Although he felt that Nicole would never lie too, he was still unable to bring himself to suspect Nora. Enough. It has been many days now. Stop this nonsense. You should go home and appreciate the time you have with Mom and Dad, Spencer reminded Nora. Nora, sensing something was not right, immediately asked, "Why are you saying this, Spencer?" Spencer did not hide the matter from her. "I accidentally heard Sean tell Mom and Dad that he had found clues about your biological parents." "How could that be?" Nora was stunned, and her eyes widened. Both Spencer and Samuel were taken aback. Why was Nora's reaction so bizarre? Nora immediately realized that she had overreacted and quickly explained. I just did not expect Sean to have found them so soon." Yet, a trace of panic flashed in her heart. How could that be? That family had always hidden their tracks. They shouldn't be found in the first place, she thought. "Yeah, we did not expect it to be so fast either, so, go home. After all, you don't have much time left together." Spencer's tone was not as close as before and sounded more like a friendly reminder. "I understand." Nora dared not play coy anymore and could only nod in agreement. "We'll be leaving first then." Seeing that she finally agreed, the twins were relieved and said goodbye to her. While Nora watched the two leaving, her expression turned cold and sullen. She did not expect Sean to manage to find the trails of her biological parents. "They want to get rid of me just like that. No way in hell. I will never allow you lot to get rid of me." Nora snarled inwardly, "There is only one daughter of the Riddle family, and that is me." Inside the classroom, Gary was looking at the questions in his hand as he frowned irritably. He was not concerned about his monthly exam results, but due to the bet Nicole had with Mr. Kennedy on this math Olympiad, he was under a massive amount of pressure. As he looked up and saw Nicole coming back and sitting down casually, she did or said nothing, yet she gave him an inexplicable sense of calmness. Recalling her clear and moving thank you yesterday, his irritation at trying to solve the math problems dropped by a lot. Jack, who was beside Gary, noticed his gaze, and a thought crossed his mind. Gary seemed to be really treating Nicole differently. Seemingly thinking of something, he turned to look at June, who was quietly doing her revision, as a thoughtful look appeared on his face. Vivian also saw how Gary looked at Nicole, and as she remembered what he said to her yesterday, a cold smile appeared on her face as she took out her phone and sent a message out. Gary took another glance at Nicole. Harvey, who got the message, turned off the screen before looking at Miss Thompson before him. His smile was warm as ever. "Miss Thompson, I've understood what happened the other day and have met Nicole as well." Miss Thompson gave Harvey a satisfied look. This grandson of Mr. Ellison had won her and the class countless accolades, so when she spoke to him, her tone would subconsciously soften. "Oh? Tell me, what was going on actually? Did Nicole greatly affect the overall grade of the class, or did she affect the grades of the top students in class?" When Miss Thompson recalled Nicole's beautiful face, a look of faint disgust appeared in her eyes. "I could tell she isn't a good student from a glance." Thinking of when Nicole had made a fool out of her back then, Miss Thompson's expression turned sullen as she hoped that Harvey could report Nicole in. Yet, when Harvey heard what Miss Thompson said, he still maintained his smile as he said flatly, "Miss Thompson, Nicole does indeed have a bad influence on the class." As expected. Miss Thompson's eyes lit up as if she had caught onto Nicole's weakness. However, Harvey suddenly paused as he pivoted. "She seems to always have trouble arising around her. Probably because of her beauty, many would go to her class to see her, causing the high school division students to lose interest in their studies." As he said that, Harvey looked up at Miss Thompson. "After all, the exam is on next Monday, so shouldn't you do something about the atmosphere in the high school division, Miss Thompson?" Miss Thompson's expression suddenly turned glum. What Harvey had insinuated was that Nicole was innocent. He implied that it was all the other students who ran over to see Nicole. And it was because of her beauty. Miss Thompson almost wanted to puke. "But Harvey will not lie to me, so there must be a problem with the students at the high school division." As she thought of this, Miss Thompson stood up and prepared to go to the high school division building. Before she left, she suddenly recalled something as she asked Harvey with some trepidation. "Harvey, Nicole has no special relationship with your grandfather, right?" How could she forget that scene when Nicole directly called Mr. Ellison? She did not want to kick a brick wall a second time. Hearing this, Harvey had a glint in his eyes as he looked at her with some confusion on his face. My grandfather? Why would Nicole have anything to do with him? He purposely answered with a question, looking like he did not know anything at all. Only did Miss Thompson feel relief as she walked out. She whispered to herself, "Just like what I said. There's no way Nicole knows Mr. Ellison. She must have got his number by accident." Mr. Ellison is a just and upright man. It was reasonable for him to put his manners aside when he heard Nicole say such unpleasant things. Nicole may very well have nothing to do with his anger toward her, thought Miss Thompson with a sneer on her face. As if victory was at hand, she hurriedly said to Harvey, "Harvey, go back to your class first. I have something to attend to." As she said that, she turned and left the office. She noticed the strange look in Harvey's eyes, but she still lugged her barrel-like waist as she stomped out on her stiletto high heels. Soon, Miss Thompson arrived at the corridor of the 11th grade, and although it was almost time for Class B's doorway was still crowded and very noisy. There was a look of puzzlement on Miss Thompson's face as she could not understand what was going on. Many of the students did not look like they were from the high school division. There were even some from the university division, and she could not help but wonder, did everyone in school come over here? What are they doing here? As she came to the crowd, she grabbed one of the students and asked, "What are you lot gathering here for?" It was so noisy it did not look like they were about to have their exams. When a boy saw that it was her, his originally irritable gaze immediately changed as he cautiously said, "Miss Thompson, we are here to apologize." Apologize? Apologize for what? Miss Thompson wanted to ask more, but that boy, who seemed to be from the 12th grade, knew very well the grievances between Nicole and Miss Thompson, so he raised his hand and called out, "Miss Thompson is here. Let's leave." When everyone saw that Miss Thompson was really here, they reacted quickly as they took their stuff and fled. Barely a moment later, there was no one at the door of the 11th grade. Miss Thompson had no outlet to vent the questions she had, so she was pissed and hated Nicole even more. Miss Thompson could not hold her irritation as she stepped into Class B. The students inside the class had already heard that yell, so everyone was already sitting properly in their seats. The class looked very peaceful and quiet. Miss Thompson ignored them and snorted coldly. The boy on the first row looked at Miss Thompson and sheepishly asked, "Ms. Thompson, what are you doing here?" Miss Thompson looked up and sneered as she said, "What am I doing here? If I had not come here, you brats would have turned this place upside down." When she said that, her eyes were affixed to Nicole as if she was talking to the latter. Nicole's expression remained impassive as she leaned back lazily on the chair. She pulled out a book, not deigning to even look at Miss Thompson, who was here to look for trouble. Miss Thompson could never stand Nicole's indifference, so she walked over and slammed on Nicole's desk. "Nicole, how can you be so oblivious? You can't tell I'm talking about you." Everyone had witnessed Miss Thompson being made a fool before Nicole and knew clearly what her words meant. Ms. Thompson is here for payback. Everyone knew, yet they could only lower their hands and not speak. Nicole looked up impassively, and as she looked at Miss Thompson, her voice had an obvious chill to it. "What's the matter? Did I do something?" Everyone looked at Miss Thompson too. "Yeah, what did Nicole do?"
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.